Okay, navigating and organizing in Google Drive. In the last video, we went over some of the basics of really what Google Drive is and also how to upload some of your pre-existing files to it and also how to basically just create some files. This tutorial will go over a little bit more in depth of navigating and organizing. So the first thing you really want to do in Google Drive is have different folders created. And that's just for organizing purposes. So for instance, I have a folder called My Stuff and Curriculum. And inside that folder, I have a folder for many of the different subjects I teach. I also have an SLO folder for New York State certification requirements, and so on and so forth. Within each folder, I have many other folders. You double click it. This is my American History 7th through 8th. I have each chapter as a different folder. And within each of those folders, in some of them I have even other folders. Most of them are just PowerPoint lessons, Google Slides lessons. Here we go, inside the chapter 20 I have another one. Now to create a folder, you press New, Folder. The folder will be created in whatever screen you're looking at. So if I am in my Google Drive, the main page, and I create a folder, it's going to be on the main level. If I click into my Sandbox, and now I create a folder, new folder, while I'm in Sandbox, and call it New Sandbox, that folder will be inside the Sandbox folder. You can, as you know, you can navigate by clicking the top breadcrumbs. These are pretty much called breadcrumbs, but clicking these. So now I'm in my drive. You can drop it. If I click Sandbox, and it goes like that. If I click My Stuff Curriculum, it lists it up here. Now I'm in American History, it lists it on the top. Now I'm in chapter 3, it lists it up there. That's where you are. So speaking of navigating, my drive, the left-hand menu, you're always going to be looking at the left-hand menu, and then there's a couple of options up here we'll go over later. On the left-hand menu, if you click this little arrow next to My Drive, it's a list of every folder within your drive, and you can also navigate that way. If you click any of these drop-down arrows, it'll reveal all of the folders within that folder. If I click this arrow, it now reveals all of those folders. So that's another way to navigate. So this is My Drive. Another thing besides My Drive is the Shared With Me folder. Anytime someone shares a document or folder with you, it goes into the Shared With Me folder. We're going to talk much more about sharing in a later tutorial, so we're not going to get into it too much right now. But just so you know, if you want to add something that was shared with you to your drive, you click it, and you click this button up here. It says Add to My Drive. Now, it's still going to exist in your Shared With Me folder. Notice I clicked it and it didn't move. But now, it's also going to be in My Drive, Google Chrome and Chromebook Notes. It will be in My Drive right here. Here it is. Okay, so you have My Drive. This is your storage. You have Shared With Me, which you can add stuff to your drive. Google Photos is a new feature. Any photos you can upload to your Google Drive will be automatically put here. Recent means exactly what it sounds like. It's anything that was recently either edited by you or someone else that exists in your drive. Anything starred, I really don't use this, but I guess you can star things and it'll come up in your starred. And of course your trash. And notice underneath trash it says 2 gigabytes used. Let's talk about that for a second. You don't use any storage if the documents are in Google format. So a Google Slides presentation, notice it's not using any storage. A Google Doc is not using any storage. A Google Drawing, no storage. The only things that use storage are actual physical files. So this is a PDF. It's using 5 megabytes. This is a Microsoft Word document. It's using 16 megabytes. And if you have PowerPoint presentations that are not in Google format, they're using storage as well. Now understand the difference. See, all of these PowerPoints are using storage, and whereas my Google Slides are not. Now understand the difference. Remember, anything in a Google format, like a Google Slides presentation, is really just a website. It's not an actual file, physical file. Whereas these PowerPoints are physical files that are stored in your drive. So that's another reason why it's good to keep things in Google format. Let's go over some other menu items. Here's a big one. Most of my students have their Google Drive listed in grid format. But when you have a drive that's as large as mine, it becomes very, very unwieldy. So I like having mine in list format. It's much easier to view. Here's another thing. Sorting options. You can sort it by in alphabetical order if you want. You can also sort it by last modified by me, or last opened by me. So I'm going to sort by last modified. You will always get your folders first, and then after your last folder, then it'll start resorting with actual files. So this was last modified at 3:37, a couple of minutes ago by me, just like my first folder was the last modified. And you can, of course, you can click this to go in ascending or descending order. This is a details. You can click on any file and click the I information, and it'll tell you activity, the last time someone did anything, or the details of it. I usually do not use that, and you can do that for an entire folder as well. It tells you who it's shared with, who owns it, when it was last modified, and so on and so forth. And you can also add a description of a folder by clicking the details, or of a file as well. Lastly, you have this settings gear. If you click settings, this gives you an overall detail of your storage. You have unlimited storage if you're using Google Apps for Education. If you're using Gmail, you do not have unlimited storage, but you can find out how much you have left by clicking that. This is the convert uploads. We went over this in the last lesson. When you upload something, if you want it automatically converted to Google Docs format, you can leave this checked. You can do language settings. And then here's a great tool. You don't always have internet access, but if you click this box, it'll sync any docs, sheets, or slides that you're working on to the computer that you're actually using, so you can edit it offline. So that's great if you want to work on a Google Doc or a Google Slide presentation and you're not having internet access. And this is managing apps we could talk about for a later lesson. So there you go. Oh, almost. One more thing to go over. If you highlight a folder, you can get a shareable link by clicking this button, and you can bring up sharing options by clicking this button. We're going to do an entire lesson just on sharing options, so we'll go over that later. Okay. You can put it in the trash right here, and here's a good one. More actions. You can open it with different apps. You can move it and organize it. Let's say I wanted this Sandbox in a different part of my drive. You can move it by clicking that, and I can put it there. You can add a star. You can change the color of your folders. That's helpful for organization purposes. Let's say I want a different color. I want a blue. Okay. Besides changing the color, you can rename the folder right from there, view the details of the folder, and download the folder. Let's take a look at that for an actual document. These more options are different for a document. You can open with Google Docs. So for instance, if you have a Microsoft Word, which is this one, File, but you want to convert it to a Google Doc, you can click